Howdy. Welcome to Office Hours FM, episode number 86. This is the first show since last year. I haven't podcasted in over a year, since 2015. Anyhow, welcome. So glad that you can join me today. And as you can see, I do not have any guests with me on this particular episode. That is because I am here to connect with you today directly and just kind of give you some updates on what is happening with the podcast this year. This episode officially kicks off season 2 of the Office Hours FM podcast. And let me tell you a little bit about how that came about. So 85 episodes into Office Hours as of last year. I've been doing the podcast for about a year and a half or so. And there was no definitive feel of things coming to closure or a stopping point. And I wanted to do that. So I'm introducing seasons so they can be predefined chunks of times. And the seasons are actually going to be 12 weeks long or 1 quarter, in which we can sort of focus on specific topics. And my overarching theme this year is to help you essentially be more successful, to do what you do better in your business. And that's whether you're a freelancer, whether you are a small business owner, whether you work for an agency, wherever you're at. What I would love to do in this show is bring on people to talk about topics that are meaningful to your business and your situation. So that said, we probably will be less techy than we have been in the past. That doesn't mean we are not going to have any tech at all, because we do like tech. So I'll get into talking about what some of our topics are going to be in just a second. But first, welcome those of you who are trickling in, joining us live. And you're welcome to send any comments you have via the Google Q&A app if you are watching via Google+, or you can just use Twitter, #OfficeFM. And let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. It might not feel awkward to you to be sitting there listening to me right now, but it is awkward to me just talking to my monitor and not getting any human feedback. So I do appreciate any and all questions, so I don't just have to, I guess I'm talking to myself either way. But anyways, thanks for listening to me talk to myself. Okay, so let's talk about my thoughts for seasons. And again, the purpose of this podcast and a large part of what I want to do is to serve you. So I'm going to run by you what I'm thinking, but I want your feedback. I want to know what topics that you would like to specifically hear about. So for season 2, what I'd like to focus on is growing your business skills. So talking about everything from goal setting to lead nurturing to how to market yourself and position yourself, how to value price yourself, how to handle your finances, just all of those sort of skills that go into being a business owner. And again, that might be that you're employed or you're self-employed, but these are skills that you can take with you anywhere. So those are my thoughts for Q1. Paul, I don't know why you're saying roll tide. Don't bring any of that into my house. It is go Frogs here in Fort Worth, Texas. And Happy New Year to you, Devender and Amanda. Glad you're tuning in live, as well as you, Jackie and Diane. Great to see you guys. So season 2, quarter 1, growing your business skills. Season 3, or Q2, is growing your consulting and or project income. The next season, I'd like to talk about growing your passive and or alternate revenue streams. And then in the round out the year, talking about how to grow your skill set, because everything is, especially in the tech field, things are coming at us a million miles an hour. So how do you keep up to date, keep your skills relevant and fresh when you're working a full-time job and doing all these things on the side? So how do you do that? So those are sort of the broad strokes that I'm thinking of. And again, would absolutely love your feedback. If you're listening to this live, feel free to give it to me live. If you're listening to this after the fact, you can drop an email to hello@officehours.fm and let me know all about it. Okay, so Jackie, we've got the first question off the bat. She's asking, Carrie, what were some of the biggest influencers in 2015 for you on improving your business skills? By the way, Diane Kinney, I'm sorry that my hair is bugging you. You know, I've always been appearance first, business second. And, you know, I've just really let things slip this year. So I'm going to get some bobby pins for the next episode. Thank you, dear. Okay, so what were some of the biggest influencers in 2015 on improving your business skills? That's a fantastic question. And I would say probably the biggest was being part of a mastermind group that, and specifically for the reasons of accountability, saying goals out loud, being challenged on them, and then, you know, having to answer on whether or not you've followed through on things. That mastermind group has since come to an end, and I'm in a second mastermind group, or another mastermind group, which, by the way, if I think that masterminds might be a good topic to discuss at some point in the podcast this season. Yeah, so the podcast, other than that, being around mentors, people like Chris Lima, Tom McFarlane, Curtis McHale, seeing how they operate their businesses, how they talk about their businesses. Those are all things that have been tremendously helpful to me. Jackie's also asking, can we talk about what are the biggest hurdles freelancers faced in moving to value pricing? And you've tagged Kirk Bowman from the Art of Value podcast on there. But that's a fantastic podcast, by the way. If you have not heard that, head over to artofvalue.com. Free advertisement. You know, Jackie, I don't know if it's a problem that freelancers face or a problem that we face in general. The first piece of that puzzle is imposter syndrome, right? So not thinking that you can charge what you're worth, or you can charge your clients more. So I think there's that confidence piece is one aspect of it. And then the second piece is just practically, how do you do it? How do you move from a flat fee or hourly fee based approach into value pricing? Because those are very different conversations that you have with your customers when you're going through the proposal process. And I am no master of it. I'll tell you that right now. My plans are to get both Kirk and Chris Lima on the show this season to talk to you specifically about value pricing. Let's see. Paul asks, what was the best favorite event you attended in 2015 that helped your biz? That was, hands down, I'm going to say Pressnomics. Pressnomics is coming up again here in April in Arizona. And if you haven't gotten your tickets, there's not too many left. But imagine, actually, it's nothing like a WordCamp. So don't imagine a WordCamp. It's sort of the best and the brightest of WordPress business people together. There's maybe 250 or so and together for a conference. And then there's no tracks. There's single sessions. And each session is able to really go into depth on different aspects of business. And what's great about the folks that you'll encounter at Pressnomics, which talk about imposter syndrome, I had a good bout of that while I was there. But these are the people who are running the WordPress businesses that we might aspire to be like, right? So being able to learn from their mistakes, pick their brains, and just get to know them. That was a fantastic event. The other one was Cabo Press. And for many of the same reasons that I just mentioned, except for it was on like a much condensed scale because there were only 20 or 25 folks there. So while WordCamps are fantastic for networking, for growing community, for education, I really think that getting some additional conferences under your belt, and it might not be Pressnomics or Cabo Press for you, but expanding what conferences you attend outside of just WordCamps is great for growth. And Ginger's correcting me. Pressnomics is in March, not April. I should probably look at my plane ticket and confirm that I actually did buy it for March. Woo, excuse me. When I have guests on, I can toss them a question and then take a sip of my water. But when I don't have guests on, I just have to pause awkwardly and drink my water. Okay, let's see. Devinder, how has your stable gig at Web Dev Studios helped in overall growth from the point? And I've got to say, it's not Web Dev. I do love the guys over at Web Dev, but I'm actually at Crowd Favorite. Helped in overall growth from point of view, business, scaling, new opportunities, etc. So just to back up the bus for those of you who are maybe tuning in for the first time or not super familiar with the podcast, I have run my own business for a number of years, and then as of September, I accepted a position with Crowd Favorite as a team lead and software developer. That has been a really cool opportunity just to see how what kind of most of us do, which is, for building out websites or doing client work, what that looks like at a larger scale. It's been, I think, most helpful to hear conversations, to hear how other people respond to clients, how they communicate with clients. Anytime you can get out of your own bubble and see the way that other people conduct their business, you can learn from, learn from that. So I've definitely enjoyed that. Let's see, Costas, will you be bringing in guests this season? That is a fantastic question. Yes, I will not make you just sit here and listen to me the whole time. This particular episode, since it's sort of kicking off a new season and wanted just to kind of give the shakedown of what was going to be going on with the show, I didn't want to get a guest on for that. But starting next week, I will have a guest on. I'll have actually a Topher from HeroPress, and we're going to be talking specifically about how building relationships and community helps grow your business. Looking forward to that. I'll also have the following week. By the way, I'd really love to kind of get a few weeks out schedule to you guys so that you can know what's coming up on the podcast. And if you're not going to be able to attend live, you might have some questions that you can get in ahead of time. But also have one on lead nurturing coming up with a fellow named Chris Handy that you're going to love. I will be posting those details over on officehours.fm. Let's see, you've got another question from Costas. Will each episode focus on one specific topic? Yes, that is the goal. So in the past, the show has been, I've had on guests, and then the questions asked tend to be more, it was just sort of rapid fire, or not rapid fire, but scattershot. So we might talk about one thing and then something else, and then circle back around, and not a ton of organization. I've never prepped questions ahead of time, or very rarely do that for guests, because I really like and prefer having organic conversation just unfold. So we'll still keep that style, but this time we're just going to wrap it in a topic ahead of time. So great question there. Let's see. Jackie said, any new technologies or tools you've been exposed to that we should have on our radar? Probably what I'm currently having fun with this week is Beaver Builder. I know that might shock some of you, but it's actually a really cool little plugin It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I'll say that right now. But they have the idea of, kind of drag and drop modules. And what gets really cool is you can create custom modules. So, whatever their 15 or so modules are out of the box, if you need something that does, the outputs, I don't know, whatever it is you want to display on the page, you can create a custom module to do that. And you could just create a WordPress template, I hear you saying. So why the heck are you using Beaver Builder? And that is a very good, legitimate question. It depends on the use case, whether or not Beaver Builder is a good tool for you. But in the event that you want to give someone the freedom and flexibility to go forward and replicate the templates that you're creating, but using, you're basically giving more control to your client. And I know you don't always want to give clients control of their website. So again, it just depends on the situation. So that, and then Composer is a lot of fun. So Composer is basically something you install via npm on your machine, and you can specify any dependencies. Okay, let me back up and see if I can explain this better. Let's say you're working with Grunt, and you want to be able to do things like compile your Sass, compile your JS, do various things. And in order to do that, you have all these dependencies, other third-party libraries that you need to pull in to execute those tasks. So Composer is that, but think of it for an entire WordPress project. So say if you're doing plugins or you need certain configurations, that sort of thing, you can build out a Composer file that brings all those fun things in for you. So that is, let's see. So those are, just off the top of my head, those are some things that I'm working with. And thanks for the questions, guys. I appreciate not just having to, sort of pick my nose over here. Not that I would pick my nose on public TV, but not that this is public. Never mind. Chrissy asked, the best advice or things to consider for someone considering freelancing coming from a full-time position. That is a fantastic question. And man, there's a lot of, not a loaded question, but there's a lot to unpack there. So one aspect of that is financial. So, have you made are you at a point are you already freelancing? I would always recommend freelancing before you quit the full-time job, unless it's a situation of a layoff where you don't necessarily have that luxury. But make sure that you're comfortable for that and can actually be successful at getting people to pay you money on a freelance basis before you cut the cord with the W-2 gig. So the financial aspect. And then second thing is, think about where your business is going to be coming from. How are you going to get clients? How are you going to, and that's actually a lot of what we'll be talking about this season, those sorts of things. Oh man, now I got rambling and a little bit off track. Okay, so your finances, where your client pipeline, also probably your work environment. Like, do you plan to work at home? Do you have an office? Do you have some place you can squirrel away without distraction? Working at home, I love it, but I do know it's not for everyone. Let's see. Devinder comments that he is a thumbs up on Beaver Builder. Let's see. Costas asks, semi-off topic, are you using Genesis a crowd favorite? If not, what? If yes, what were they using? Were they using it before? Yes, I am using Genesis a crowd favorite. It is one of many solutions. It is not only Genesis. We use underscores as a foundation for projects. And some projects aren't even in PHP. They're in Angular, AngularJS, and some other things. So yes, we do use Genesis, but not solely. Let's see, Amanda, boy, way to come in with the zinger question. Have you been able to create accessible stuff with Beaver Builder yet? or still custom templates for that? That is a fantastic question. From a user perspective, or you as the developer going in and using those drag and drop components, I frankly don't know how accessible those are. From the front end view, so what you're citing, in that case, a lot of the accessibility components are just a matter of following good accessibility practices anyway. So, making sure you're using good color contrast and making sure you're using alt tags in your images and proper heading hierarchy and those sorts of things. So it's more about, so when it comes to the content that you create with Beaver Builder, yes, you can make it accessible. In terms of the code that it spits out, that's a good question. I haven't looked to see, in terms of like ARIA roles and things like that, if everything is being assigned appropriately. I think you could work with, for the most part, I think you could work with it and create an accessible experience. Again, from that developer perspective, I'll send it to you. You can tell me. You can give that a little whirl and report back. Chrissy says it was a layoff, so considering pursuing freelance versus finding another full-time job. Freelance is always, or at least for me, was always a great way to fill in the gap between full-time jobs. So yeah, if there's no paycheck, hang out your shingle, post haste, and figure out the details as you go. And then, do that till you, or while you're looking for another job, and you might find out that you just love freelancing and you don't want to get that full-time job anyway. Let's see, Jackie asked, any plans for updating the Utility Pro theme? Yes. I've actually got an update that I'm trying to polish up right now. It's not a big one. It's basically using Composer, or adding Composer and incorporating some of the Genesis 2.2 accessibility features. And so Utility Pro had all these accessibility features baked into it. And then Genesis finally got on the accessibility bandwagon, yay, about damn time, sorry, and added accessibility components to the framework itself. So how I'm integrating that, in short, if the accessibility components that are in Utility Pro are better than what's in Genesis, then I'm leaving that in Utility Pro. If it's equal, then I'm adding what's from Genesis. So it will, end up removing some code from the theme, which is good, just for simplicity's sake. Yeah, so that's sort of the first update on the docs for Utility Pro. I'm not sure what would come next for that, but I would love to continue with the developer version of the theme, specifically including features that make that easier to use for developers that want to use that as a starter theme, which Jackie, I read your very lovely, flattering article over on your website that you're using Utility Pro for that, or in that way. So if there's any features you would like to see, I am certainly all ears. Let's see, Paul asked, when working at home, how do you get your spouse or family to accept that you're working? That's a good one. You got to set some boundaries. Earlier in my career, I had that issue more than I do now. But it was, friends calling you, wanting to meet you for lunch, and you're like, I'm actually working. I know maybe you don't think I'm working because I'm in my pajamas and I'm at home, but in fact, I am working. So part of that is being protective of your time and just letting your family know that, look, when these doors are shut, or whatever space you have to go to, that I'm working. Please do not interrupt me unless it's an emergency. And just keep reiterating that until they'll eventually get the point. And if it's your kids bugging you, you can be all like, well, Do you want that new pair of shoes? Well, then let dad get back to work. Otherwise, no shoes for you because I won't have the money to pay for them. Ha! Just kidding. All right. Well, those are the questions in the queue for now. I would, for those of you who tuned in a little bit later, we're talking about season 2 of Office Hours FM and what that looks like. We're going to be talking about growing your business skills. And we'll be kicking that off next week with Topher DeRoja, I think I'm probably butchering his last name, or Topher One Kenobi, if you follow him on Twitter. And we'll be talking about how to use relationships and create relationships that help grow your business. Let's see. Costa says a topic idea for the season, a discussion on if a freelancer should develop a personal or business brand. I like the way you think. And I've actually got something similar. I called it marketing yourself, or how to position yourself. But that is an excellent topic. And something as someone who just operates my business under my name, which I know a lot of you guys do as well, that is sort of odd. Do I have a logo? Not that a logo is a brand, but oh wait, I just noticed his hair became untucked, and that was probably really bugging Diane. I hope you feel better now, Diane. Okay, well, I'll give a couple more moments here if anybody has a question they want to pop in. Otherwise, I'm not planning to take the whole hour today, so you can actually have the gift of extra time. But I so appreciate you guys who do tune in live, and you that are listening after the fact, that support the podcast just by tuning in. That means that's why I do it. Yeah, there are listeners. As long as there are listeners, I will show up. And I hope that you continue to find value here, or at least some mild entertainment from time to time. So with that, let's see if we get another question from Jackie here. What business skills do you admire most that you've seen in other peers? Man, Jackie's always full of good questions. When Jackie's out of town, the Twitters get slow on podcast day. I think Curtis McHale is someone who I really admire his ability to set boundaries and communicate directly. I tend to hem and haw, and I like people to feel good, and it's difficult for me to come out and speak, I guess, truths that might make other people uncomfortable. And I like the way he does that. I've learned a lot from him, kind of watching how he interacts with other people. And you can go over to curtismchale.ca and you can read his blog and see exactly what I'm talking about. Business skills do you admire most that you've seen in other peers? Man, I really, Jackie, now I'm feeling unprepared for my own podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna marinate in that, and we'll circle back around. Let's see. Ginger says, perhaps a show on incorporating or forming an LLC to protect your interests, the pros and cons of how to go about it. Yes, that is a fantastic. I'm actually typing that onto my list right now. Can you hear me typing? There it went. Okay, that is noted. Other skills that I've admired. So there's also, to talk about Curtis being able to speak directly. The other is to be able to communicate effectively via email, and remove the emotion from it. So I had several instances this past year where it was, somebody, usually they always boil down to being over money, right? Somebody doesn't want to pay you what you believe that they should pay you, or contractually obligated to pay you. And when sending, typing up emails to to folks, it's very easy to let your emotions sort of rule the day in that communication. And Diane, who's tuned into the show, Diane Kinney, she's another that both her and Rebecca Gill many times would run an email by them before I hit the send button and let them sort of be the comb that took out any emotions and just was just factual. Let's get down to the details. So written communication, effective written communication is hard to come by. Tricia Salis, yay for tuning in live. Very good to see you around those parts. Let's see. Devender says, suggestions or progress to jump from a 1K to 5K to 10K project tiers in the WordPress sphere. That is a very good question. And I think one thing to think of is, are you capable of 10K work or 20K work? And I don't mean from a confidence perspective. I mean, when you get into projects with larger price tags, generally the technical requirements are much larger than you would be expected to need at that $1,000 level or even at that $5,000 level. So the first question to ask yourself is, are you technically capable of going after some of those larger projects? And then how do you, so assuming you are, suggestions to jump from those, just start writing bigger proposals and see who bites. Troy Dean over on WPElevation.com earlier, or towards the end of last year, did a series on how to write a 10K proposal. I'd highly recommend going over there. It's like a 6-part or maybe 4-part thing. He actually gives you the template. He uses some of the language that he uses. That would be a great thing to go study. So Paul suggesting I have the famous Curtis McHale on the show, and yes, he doesn't know it yet, but he's coming on the show this year. There are lots of people that don't know they're coming on the show this year, but I've already penciled them in. I would also love to introduce you guys to some folks that aren't necessarily in our little WordPress circle. Expand the realm of cool people that will come on the show. Well, let's see. Rebecca, I'm always glad that you are snorting with laughter. Snorting with laughter. I love a good snort. David Bell had a BLT for lunch today, and that actually sounds pretty good. I haven't had lunch yet, so except I'm too lazy to get up and cook bacon right now. That's kind of an effort, but that does sound delicious. All right, kids. And by kids, I mean awesome, amazing people. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down for the day and really super duper look forward to being on the show live again next week. If you're not already subscribed to officehours.fm, please do so. You can go over to officehours.fm/subscribe. I only send one little email a week, and it's just a reminder to tune in to the show. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for tuning in on the first episode of season 2, episode number 86, which doesn't sound like it's first episode, but it is. And with that, I hope you all have a freaking fantastic day, and I will see you next week. Bye.